Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of the House of Holocrons podcast. My name is Chris,
Jesse.
and
Mike.
we are three hardcore Star Wars nerds here to talk to you guys about pretty much everything. But a good place to start, of course, is about ourselves. Jess, you have a fun take. Why don't you go first?
Okay. Putting me first?
Yep.
Put me on the spot. Cool. I didn't really get into Star Wars until a little bit later. I know some people are going to come for me for that, being like fake fan or whatever, but whatever. I actually started playing the Old Republic game, and I have seen all the movies. I watch them every year. That was not but the game is what really got me into it. The world, running around, being my own Jedi, the decisions I had to make, and then Force Unleashed came out, and I loved it.
You a big Starkiller fan?
Yeah, and I met him too, so that's fun.
Oh, yeah, Sam Witwer.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy.
But no, for me, the games were what got me into it. Just more the world exploration, and I love world building.
That's
So
good stuff. KOTOR's a really good way to start that. Mike, what got you into Star Wars?
Well, I'm a little older than some of the newer generations, so I grew up in the 90s. So I missed the original movies. But when I was I don't know how old, I was real small. My father watched the original Star Wars movie with me. And I don't know if it was just spending time with him or I just fell in love. But ever since then, when I got a chance, Star Wars everything, Star Wars shirts and toys, and I fell in love with it. And then, of course, when I got to see my first live movie, which was Ep.1, it was awesome to see every movie from then on in theaters. So
Exactly. Yeah, I kind of have a bit of the original, like, same thing too. I have, again, early 90s baby. So, missed the originals, but having my uncle and father in the house living together, so they had like that brotherly vibe. They would always rewatch Star Wars almost every year, as they did see them come out in theaters. So I really got to bond through that. And then, so born in the early 90s, I was like 6 when Phantom Menace dropped. And yeah, a 6-year-old getting to see Darth Maul and all that, and the Starfighters, you're gonna fall in love. How do you not? So I definitely, same thing. It was Phantom Menace that got me stuck in hard. So then, with movies, we can talk favorites. Mike, if you'd like to go first, what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
My favorite, honestly, overall would be Empire Strikes Back, which is a very popular one amongst fans. I love the battle scenes; those are my favorite. So any of the war scenes, I love watching the troopers. The Hoth battles is iconic. And then of course the first reveal of Boba, which
Oh
is
yeah.
another iconic piece. So.
You have
Particularly second reveal, but first live reveal of Boba.
right, and you have a lot of love for Mandalorians.
Yeah, I was engrossed in Mandalorian culture for so long. I think I hugely got into it in the mid 2000s, and just
Mandalorian culture
everybody
is
else,
fun.
yeah, everybody else wanted lightsabers. I wanted a blaster. So
Yeah, you always go out into the woods and find the perfect stick that was just, a broken off Y branch, had the perfect little handle, set, ready to go. Jess, your favorite movie?
I don't have one.
Okay.
I mean, I enjoy the prequels, but then I'm liking some of the solo stuff. Solo, but the single movies.
The newer Disney stuff?
Yeah. I just like the
Rogue
the world
One,
building.
Solo, yeah.
It goes back to world building for
Okay.
me. I like exploring more of the stories that aren't told in the originals, or like the background characters.
was there one that stood out to you that you
I
can
like
think
a
of
lot
right now?
Things though, I don't pick favorites. Like, I'm weird like that.
Do you have a time, what about an era? Prequels, original, or sequel?
Prequels.
Prequels? Okay. So then I'll go. My favorite movie is Return of the Jedi. Entirely just because it is the culmination of all those movies finally coming together, and the chosen one really bringing the balance to the Force. Of course, young, like 5-year-old Chris had no idea what exactly was going on. He just thought, oh, this really evil dude at the last second like changed his heart. Oh, that's so cool. What a cool dad. And then we get to see all that rest of the story. But yeah, I loved Return of the Jedi so much. I think it was really cool because I feel like that's when the lightsaber battles became a little bit more
Yeah.
Finesse.
uh, a lot more showy without
Bigger
having-
budget.
Yes, but they didn't have to do all of the CGI and the
Bigger
crazy
budget, more
flips
training.
that they eventually do in the prequels. So
Yeah.
it looked more like actual longsword fighting, or like like very cautious and trying not to hit each other versus the flips and tricks that we see later on. But
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, and because I thought all Jedi were gonna be these black wearing like bad boy looking guys. It was really cool to see Luke Skywalker go from Tashi Station complainer to Jedi Master. That was a lot of, or Jedi Knight at least in Return of the Jedi. All right, and then TV shows. So we'll talk real quick then about favorite TV show. You have a favorite TV show? All right, well then you can go first. What is the favorite TV show?
Rebels.
Rebels.
100% Rebels.
Okay. And why is that?
Hera.
Hera Syndulla. Okay.
It's a good show.
That's
It's a
it.
good show.
That's just the reason. Hera.
I've always said, to me,
Yeah, there's-
Clone Wars is a lot more the action pack. You don't have to know what's going on each episode. You don't have to know the continuity of the story. Rebels has more story arc, has more story builder and character builder. Anakin is Anakin by the end of Clone Wars, and Rex is.
I hear
Rex.
a lot of people who miss out on Rebels because it was a Disney show, so a lot of people just skipped out on completely. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend watching it. It's
The
a
first
really
two
good-
seasons, the animation, we all agree, the animation is not top tier, but it wasn't in
I don't
Clone
think
Wars
they,
either.
They knew if they
You know,
were
Clone
going to
Wars
do it.
first beginning was not good. I'm sorry.
Right,
It's not
and
good
as
at
much as everyone loves the earlier 2002 Clone Wars, I love the story, but that is not fun to watch. It just looks weird.
Clunky.
Anakin has such a
Yeah.
huge jaw.
Well, I missed out. The funny thing is my favorite show is the Clone Wars.
Okay.
Which is not a hot take. It's a pretty popular show. But it's a hard competition. I really like Rebels a lot, which is surprising for me. But yes, the funny thing is I didn't really get into Clone Wars until much later because the first few seasons turned me off.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Ahsoka was. I hated her. She was so annoying. Just every episode she was in, I was like, please just get rid of this character. But now she's one of the best characters
Yeah.
after some good character development. Which, honestly, if it wasn't for that character development, I don't know if she would be such a strong character as she is now.
Yeah.
So,
They
Dave
could not have
Filoni.
introduced her later
Yes.
without all that.
Dave Filoni had to put a lot of work in between like seasons 3 to 4 and 5 to really build Ahsoka's character. That's why you kind of see her in these middle seasons go on a lot of her own adventures without Anakin.
yeah, it's kind of like they made a cartoon version of Anakin where they could show more of a progression, which they couldn't do with the movies.
Right.
Because there's so much gap between the movies, we didn't see the growth of Anakin. We do see it some in Clone Wars, but honestly, you don't really see too much a change of Anakin.
Oh, I mean, we have the Mortis arc, which really puts a lot of awesome things into perspective.
I could rewatch
I mean,
that.
yeah. Imagine
for a
like
while.
for kids in the generations after us, they get to watch episode 1, 2, the Clone Wars, 3, and then move on, and that's gonna really make people be like, oh, well, no wonder this dude fell to the dark side. He's this.
Yeah.
And
As
then
always said,
Rebels and Rogue One and all the
yeah.
extra like little things in between.
yeah, I always loved the part with Anakin though. I was slave to Watto, slave to the prophecy, and then slave to Palpatine. So like that poor guy never got a break. I mean, he did a lot of that himself. Like, we're not gonna act like he wasn't a pouty baby who couldn't deal with the idea of losing his toys, but he definitely it's a very fun progression of a character. Again, though, he doesn't change, I would say, because he's gonna be Anakin in the beginning that he has to be at the
Yeah.
end to be Hayden Christensen's character then in the movie.
Like I said, there's just so much gap that we don't
Yeah.
get to see. That's the reason why I think Ahsoka's tale is a lot better, because we get to see it.
Yeah.
And because we get to see it, we get to see more growth, and she does change a lot more than Anakin gets to.
Right.
Which I mean, Anakin was put on such a pedestal that Ahsoka was not. So, her arrogance, which was something she had to develop out of,
Mhm.
Anakin never really got the chance because he was, even, he was near master level at such a young age. He was, stronger than most masters, and he never technically became one. So,
Yeah.
that's the real interesting part where, so, his arrogance is, doomed to always be so high unless he had some kind of strong character development, which is, sorry, what the Jedi's don't do so well at.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's also like the few episodes with Clovis, where Anakin gets in a little fist fight because this dude is macking on Padme so hard. And he just can't deal with people not respecting him or giving him authority because the Jedi don't give him any. Because I'm
Yeah.
sure Mace is just tired of the kid because
Well,
he's so emotional. Like it's so easy to kind of see had any other Jedi been his master aside from Obi-Wan, things would have turned out more than likely very vastly different. But of course, the Force
well,
wouldn't have allowed it.
also, if the Clone War didn't actually happen, I
Yeah.
think a lot of it, because since he couldn't get that kind of feed
Mm-hmm.
from the Jedi about how strong he was, because he was. I mean, he was powerful. He was a great duelist. He was very strong with the Force. That was like, but because of the Clone Wars and him being a general, he was able to kind of feed that kind of arrogant role through that. And so that's when, he loved the battlefield because that's where he shined.
Yeah.
He goes back to the temples. He's not so kindly looked upon, so he was constantly fighting because that was this, that's what fed him. That's what fed his ego
Yeah.
and hindered any kind of character development.
Go on, you.
So
Yeah, the that's one of the things again, like you said, that shines with Ahsoka is because then as we get later on into it, especially the story arc where she is getting kicked out of the Order,
yeah.
that the whole trial scene where you can really tell this young woman is blossoming, kind of thing, where she's like, "No, I don't need any of you actually."
Well, and then because of the betrayal.
Yeah, you guys are
So
so
she's
willing
like,
just to toss me into the trash.
Yeah.
because it's something she didn't even do.
Right.
And they were like, oh no, it had to have been you. So there we go.
Yeah, Jedi. That's
Yeah,
that's they're
the
infallible.
Order is, and that's also one thing the Clone Wars did was they showed how the Order was kind of changing their
Mm-hmm.
view on things because they kind of twisted with the Clone Wars
Yeah.
how their view of because they're supposed to be peacekeepers, they're supposed to be diplomats, but now they're generals, they're constantly in the battlefield, and that changes people. As somebody that is a veteran,
Mm-hmm.
um, being on the battlefield, I don't care if you're an officer. Well, especially these when they're in the front lines. It's gonna affect you.
Yeah.
And they're like heavily in the front.
Oh yeah.
They don't have a choice.
That's what
because
they always
they're
say is
Jedi.
like one Jedi was worth 1,000 B1 battle
Yeah.
droids. So
Especially when the clones started developing their own personalities. It was a lot of the Jedi's were closer and closer with the clones, so losing the clones was a lot harder on them.
that
Then you start
is,
messing with the connection of the
oh
Force because of that.
man, I'll give Clone Wars though for a really good emotional story. The things with the clones though, the clones are honestly where the emotion of that show really shines. With Fives and Echo, with Heavy and all, like especially the 501st guys a lot of the time because they're the ones constantly with Anakin, so they're going to be shown more.
Yeah.
Well, and then the introduction of the Bad Batch.
Yeah, Bad Batch and stuff. But no, you really get to see so much emotion from these. And then I cannot remember the clone's name that actually. There was a clone that had a conspiracy though. He was just like, "We're all slaves, man. This is stupid."
Oh, I know some. I
Yeah,
don't remember.
but
But yeah, when they started giving individual names, they were no
mhm.
longer numbers. I mean, you gotta think, all even the knights and the masters and that were fighting, that's gotta affect them, and you could see, especially with how the political climate was changing so
Mhm.
much, and so the Jedi Council's view started being a lot more. They were more standoffish. They were a lot
Oh yeah,
more, they weren't very as emotional as they were before, in a good way. They weren't,
yeah.
as caring.
And that's another
But
thing with me is like really the books kind of shine a lot. Like with Dooku Jedi Lost, is how even before a little bit before the Clone Wars, the Jedi had started to get into this weird mindset of, oh well, the Republic told us not to help this planet because they didn't pay their taxes on time, so
yeah,
we're just not going to go help this horrible riots that are breaking out.
That was such a good book too.
Yeah,
Just like
Dooku
look
Jedi Lost is
into.
definitely a good book.
yeah, I love it when they started going into the kind of the gray area of things
Mm-hmm.
because not everything's good and evil, especially when you have such a big government like that. You
Yeah.
gotta imagine. I mean, we we have a kind of a republic style government as well. We have councils and people talking in our and the United States government. So there's corruption and stuff like that already. So
Mm-hmm.
to see that more where it actually involves things, we kind of see things from the perspective a lot of times in the movies where the Republic's the good guys always.
Yeah.
And when you get to see these kind of like rebels and because that's when you start seeing things from that every good side is has a good guy in it.
Yeah.
um and that's also, I mean, you think about it, in episode 1, that they weren't wanting to help at the beginning, they were wanting to ignore the invasion of Naboo.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so that's we start seeing like, I feel like,
You really start to see a lot more of Palpatine's
yeah,
machinations kind of coming out, and you really do like
yeah.
understand this dude is a puppeteer. Like he's done all of this.
Honestly, I can't see really pure direction from the council to really send Jedi at this point to
Mm-hmm.
help Naboo in this negotiations. Honestly, I wonder if there was some influence. I don't know too much on the background of this, but if there's any influence from Palpatine for sending the Jedi out there, because that's really what sparked a lot of this. Because if he never sent Jedi and they got just quietly invaded
Mm-hmm.
over so much, we wouldn't have the Clone Wars at all.
Yeah, but it's not even. It's a reoccurring event too because like if you go back into the Old Republic, the Jedi Civil War was caused because of their inaction in the Mandalorian Jedi War.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that's not purely canon. Revan is canon. They have not canonized all of KOTOR
Oh, I'm
yet.
excited for Revan.
Yeah,
Like
it's
to see what they actually
to see
do
what
with
they
him.
finally do. I mean,
Yes.
who knows? They could make Revan canon and then be like, oh, he was weak sauce and lame
And we all riot.
and you know he was actually stupid and he was a Sith his whole life and then he died corrupt and evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we all riot,
Yeah.
of course. But
Well,
Honestly, I think I think they would do a disservice if they ever reveal who Revan is,
yeah,
unless they want to do like a pre thing with them without the mask. But I feel like if they're gonna do Revan established already in Sith,
mm,
I think the mask itself, it's just like Darth Vader.
yeah, keep
It's
it on.
iconic. You
Yeah,
can't.
SOTOR isn't canon, but is the online game?
nope.
No.
They are a weird kind of
No,
canon, but
yeah,
not really.
it's kind of why they wanted to keep the legends part around.
Yeah,
So they want to kind of keep right now at least the idea is to keep the general idea of it canon, but the specific storyline and
mm,
stuff is kind of myth in a
yeah.
way. So it's kind of
Because that's like that book I showed you, the Secrets of the Dark
Oh yeah.
Side, and like there's a few books that are just there. It's not that they're saying like where Dark Noctis comes from in the new Shadow of the Sith book, and where a lot of these Sith come from. The story is canon, but it's literally that it is a story being told around a campfire. So the person telling the story might have embellished a little.
So it can
The
be
only
there, but
yeah,
it would
the
be.
only thing in movies, and it wasn't even mentioned, that is where you see Revan is in the sequel trilogy. You have the Sith Eternal Cult is parts of the troops are named after Sith. So you have the Tenebris Corps and the Revan Corps, and that's actually where we finally get those names fully canonized.
Okay.
well the it's pretty smart idea to think about it
Mm-hmm.
because if they ever decide to establish anything with the Old Republic, they don't have to necessarily worry about any kind of any canon connectivity with it. So it'd be nice,
Mm-hmm.
they have more freedom, which a lot of fans would be upset. But if they do it right, I don't think they would.
Yeah.
I think just getting anything from the Old Republic right now, other than the MMO, would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's the thing.
Anything
That's
new?
the beauty with the Old Republic. You don't have to touch Revan or any of these known. characters
So much.
because there's hundreds of Sith and Jedi, and they're constantly fighting.
Yes, before the rule of two.
Yeah,
It's just so much. I know they had to really bring out the Inquisitors. The Inquisitors have been around for a long time, but they
right.
really established the Inquisitors because you can't just constantly use the same Sith, and then you can't just say, "Oh, there's this one Sith character that
Hmm.
somehow missed the purge and didn't want to join Palpatine." You can't keep doing that because your enemy's going to be only so big where they won't. He said, "Well, if they were so impactful, then how come we didn't hear about them in the movies?"
Yeah.
So that's one of the best things. I mean, the Republic trailers are amazing
Yes, they are.
for the MMO. Seeing a more um, Sith presence, I think, would be really interesting for
Hmm.
kind of like a Clone Wars show in a way.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited for
Because
the Acolyte. The Acolyte is pretty much going to be right around High Republic era, and it's supposed to focus on a dark side disciple or like a sect. So it could be like the what are they called? The cult of the Acolytes of Beyond, which are kind of dark side but not Sith.
Yeah, because
yeah,
there's
and
not
then you
a dark side user in the High Republic yet, right?
Not known. We do know well.
Right.
We know of Darth, like Darth Cross, but
Okay.
he wasn't ever in the books. He was in a vision in the books.
Okay.
So then
uh,
change things up a little bit. Unless you have one more point, yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just say the only thing I could see why they haven't really dwelled into that is
Yeah.
because because they like trying to keep it for everyone, so kind of child friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when you get into the part. The reason why there's so much with the troopers and the droids because you can kind of kill those off, and not worry about it being so bloody
Right,
or
but
Well, and kids
violent.
can be
So
more attached to them.
yeah,
Like,
but
my
like in
brother
the
and
games,
sister
yeah,
would like just run around saying Roger, Roger all the time.
yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, with Sith, especially in the games, especially the MMO game, you cut down people right and left
yeah.
on the dark side. Like you're just like, oh, you spoke wrong to me, chop. Oh, you looked at me wrong, chop.
I think that would be exciting though, like to explore more the darker side with some of these shows.
Yeah, and I mean Disney's doing Deadpool's. It's R
Yeah.
rated, so I mean, they're not
I mean,
too
look
against it, but I feel like they're
Doctor
never gonna.
Strange.
It's gonna be a while before we see anything that heavily gored or anything. I mean, thankfully, there's not even that much gore in Star Wars. They solved that problem with making things cauterize.
Well, I think this is a great transition into the Jedi Sith.
Yeah.
Just talking about them in general.
Hmm.
Um,
So actually, though, to kind
because
of go into my favorite show real quick, that just real quick though,
yeah,
the Mandalorian does show a little bit more the violence, the
yeah.
gore, things like that. You know, vaporizing Jawas.
Yeah.
So
See,
it's violent without having anything too grotesque.
you're still blowing people up,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
they're in ash, not pieces.
But yeah, that is my personal favorite is Mandalorian. Uh, loved Din Djarin. I think that show alone though is what's probably going to bring probably brought in honestly a lot of the newer fans.
Well, it had one of the highest views.
Yeah.
Like for Disney Plus.
I mean, it's the only reason most people got Disney Plus.
It's the only reason
Well,
we
it's-
got it in the first place.
the first season it was basically Disney experimenting with the
Yeah.
idea. So then it started really taking off from there.
I love what they're experimenting with though. I mean, again, Disney and ILM are just at this gorgeous forefront of technology
It's
with
always been.
all these cool things they create. Excuse me. I mean, like the what is it? What's it called? The volume.
Yeah.
The way that they're able to film on that now, it's still a little like shaky. A lot of people kind of said like within Kenobi, the size like ratios look a little weird sometimes. Like the snow speeders didn't look like they were like, but maybe 3 feet wide, and then sometimes they look like they were huge and then not huge. So they're learning still, but that is something I've always said. LucasArts has really pushed so many envelopes, and it's crazy when you go back and watch a lot of the, especially like the old box sets that came with all the bonus DVDs.
Yeah.
That's amazing when you watch how George was like, well, no one's doing this, so I'm just going to create my own company, and we're just going to make all the special effects.
And then the commitment to using
Yeah.
actual visual effects,
Which- yeah.
instead of CG.
Which I think is what really helps these newer things, is that they're going back to that.
Well, and then also the studio, which is in the volume, which is basically a giant screen.
Right.
Um, that helps the budget a lot more because they want to push the budget
Mm-hmm.
with kind of with the newer movies with the CGI and the vast scenery. Because if they're gonna keep up with anything, that's the only way they'll be able to do that. Because Star Trek, they had a series that was pretty well done,
Mm-hmm.
and so if they want to and kind of keep the whole just impact of Star Wars, always has kind of push the boundary of kind of imagination in a way when it comes to live action. Like the
Yeah.
first movie, just broke so many ideas of how things could be done.
Right.
Um, which honestly, that's the funny thing is he didn't do anything new. He just kind of did a lot, kind of combined a lot of techniques.
Yeah.
But
I can only
um,
imagine from an actor standpoint too, being in the volume. I hear a lot of the actors in the special bonus stuff
yeah,
talk about how much you can really get into a scene now too. Because when you
yeah,
look around, you're seeing
it's not a
everything.
giant green screen.
Yeah.
I
Everything
think it
just
it
you no
totally
longer
helps
having
with
that
the show.
imagination.
That's what I always love the behind the scenes stuff on Revenge of the Sith is that everything was blue.
It's not
Everything.
blue.
I can't. I even Ewan McGregor talks about how much it was kind of difficult to act when you're only on these giant blue pads. Everything is blue.
Yeah,
And from an animator standpoint, it's probably easier because then you can see how the actor fits into a scene,
Yeah.
and
definitely.
you can adjust something.
Yeah.
I think, like, I would
It's-
imagine,
it's-
like, they
it's
can just
really, really
quickly
cool.
go in and be like, oh,
I
no, we
c-
need to adjust this size or adjust
I
this like
imagine,
that.
yeah. I haven't seen anything from the animators or the editors, but I imagine it has to be way easier.
Right.
Just knowing kind of what goes into stuff, like, it would be so much easier to do because you can have them in front of it, you can have everything set up, and you can quickly go in, adjust what you need.
And more variety of locations too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
100%. You can
But you don't
actually
have to
two
move
suns.
location that
yeah.
way, so that way you don't have to pay for the budget of moving all the equipment.
And
Or
you cut out like a giant portion of the budget because you don't have to go in and be like, oh, we need to change this like one thing, to
Reshoot
be
it all.
one thing like this.
yeah.
I really also enjoy the Mandalorian though because the new lore we're getting from Mandalorians. It's as much as I don't agree with, it is still fun to see this. What is it? Not Cult of the Watch, Children of the Watch.
Yeah.
And season 3, super stoked for that. I'm 100% in my own head that
He's going to
Din,
Mandalore.
yeah,
He's got to go
he's
to Mandalore.
going to Mandalore. He's gonna go to that mine. He's gonna find a mythosaur or something. He's gonna become Mandalore. But that's a bad thing, honestly. If all the Mandalorian clans reignite and like come back together, I give it 50 years before there's another huge war.
I mean, I wouldn't complain. It would be a fun. That'd be something fun to watch.
Yeah, it'd
Um,
be amazing to watch, and again, it would create this. Oh, you can just kill off people. Don't worry. We're leaving Din for the Mandalorian Jedi War show, and it's just gonna be
You think that's where
Mandalorians
Takai
fighting.
is going to take his series?
I don't want Takai to touch something that serious. He makes good comedy. Don't fucking touch. No, I don't. No, he does not need to touch Mandalorian Wars. The other cool thing though about that is we could then get flashbacks. Having a current era, like after the Battle of Yavin, Mandalorian Jedi, or Mandalorian Republic War, could then lead into the flashbacks with Revan and with these other Jedi.
Yeah.
So that could be where we finally get to see a movie one, and he wouldn't have to take the mask off because it would be a flashback specifically to Revan fighting Mandalorians.
That's a good point.
well, one thing that Mandalorian did, which I've been saying forever, which is a huge Hollywood trope, and you've heard me say this a million times, is the helmet. They
Yeah.
always take the helmet off because they think they have to show the actor's face.
Yeah.
You have a famous actor, and they have to show that, oh, we have this famous actor in here. So you're gonna see. So you get these guys on the battlefield to immediately throw their helmets off, and they just look goofy. Those like World War movies,
Yeah.
or even the older movies. The knights will throw their helmets off. But why? It's the most vital protection you're gonna need,
Right.
and it's the signature for Mandalorians. So to have them immediately throw it off, is so silly, and you can still act. I mean, Darth Vader was such an impactful character, and he never took his helmet off till
Right.
the very end, and to have the Mandalorian have his helmet on. I mean, I thought it was crazy that they made the whole ruling, but then they made it into a cult, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
But to prove that they could still do a great show without taking his helmet off. Because that's honestly what killed it for me with Kylo.
Oh
Is
yeah.
he took his helmet off so quickly. He had such a cool mask. Why did he take it off?
And his whole character thing is, I want to be Vader. But the second
And
someone was like, "Who even are you under that?" He was like, "A pretty boy, a
so
gorgeous man."
It really
so
did feel like
this
that. Look at me.
this proves that you could still have a great
Yeah.
main character, and isn't that even a villain? The
Mm-hmm.
main character, a famous actor, and you don't see his face hardly ever.
Right.
You only see it a handful of times.
And even now he's been kicked out of the cult, he still is like, "Nah, I'm just gonna keep it on."
But it's still it wouldn't feel Mandalorian if you walked
Yeah.
down with his mask off. It really wouldn't.
It would just be mercenary. Yeah, it kills the vibe. And then, because that's like, even in the old lore, that's what everyone feared. They feared seeing that T visor. They knew what that meant.
That's why they used it for the clones.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I also hope they want to make, like, I don't know if it's full canon, but like, it is canon that Jango helped teach some of the clones, but
Yep.
I don't know if it's full canon that there were like 50 other Mandalorians on Camino teaching
I
these
don't think
clones.
it's still canon. I'm not sure. I have to rewatch the Clone Wars and see if they
Mhm.
ever mention it.
Say,
Yeah.
wasn't there
Because
wasn't
most
the
of it was
Jedi?
because in the books they did it, in the games they brought that up.
Yeah.
So that's the Karen Travis novels mentioned. That was one thing that was so big about the Mandalorians, was that it was about the Mandalorian. They had a Mandalorian teach them the
Hmm.
culture, which was the Commandos. They were heavily trained. So
Yes.
the ones that were really trained
Love
by
that game.
the Mandalorians were the Commandos and the supposedly the ARC troopers were also trained by Mandalorians.
Yeah.
So that's kind of their reasoning why they all customized their armor,
Yeah.
because they kind of mirrored the Mandalorian tradition of coloring your armor as a representation of yourself.
And Jess
So
had brought up a Jedi. So far, canonically, the only Jedi we know that went to Camino and helped train was Shakti,
Right.
which she must have trained him very well, because they immediately were like, "I know how to kill Jedi." Order 66 happened, and they were like, "You all are dead."
well,
And it was a
the
numbers
great
game.
thing
They knew that. They knew how to outnumber and outsmart the Jedi.
well the thing that I like that Order 66, which is a bad thing, is show Jedi can be killed.
Yeah.
It's a mean thing to say, but it went through a period, and when I was into I mean, they did that with video games and everything. They've essentially made Jedi's immortal. They
Hmm.
can't be touched. They block every bullet, and any chance of a bounty hunter or a mercenary or a soldier fighting a Jedi is null and void. They
Yeah.
can't. It's impossible. So to show that yes, they can, just like anybody,
Hmm.
because overwhelming numbers, and also they just not every Jedi was so skilled with blocking. I mean, how fast the bolts are firing
Yeah.
Well, and they
is
just used that element of surprise and that trust that they had gained, and
Yeah.
that made it so much easier.
But that's one of the fun things with the clones, is that the Mandalorians themselves, from KOTOR and stuff like that, they developed the wrist rockets, the flamethrowers. They developed all those things specifically to take anyone, any Jedi, anything down. That's why you were talking about like blaster bolts and being able to block those. So the Mandalorians are like, "All right, select throwers. We'll go back to old school, and I'm just going to shoot a hunk of metal at you. If you block it, it'll just become melted fragment."
well, yeah. They developed many. There's the um, they had the vibro and the Beskar weapons
The
to
shield.
fight with the Jedi's. They had explosives. You know, you
Yeah.
can't block an explosive.
You're right. The shield was a
Um,
big one that we see Sabine Wren use
Yeah.
against like the Darksaber, or against training with Kanan. Is they knew what they were going up against, and yeah, then we see it again really well in Mandalorian with Ahsoka fighting Din. Like, he was just sitting there blocking that lightsaber, just holding it on his gauntlets, and yeah, it was glowing, it was heating the metal, but
yeah.
it was
That's
you'd
why
have
you
to
use
sit it there
Beskar.
for like a while for it to melt through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was always the thing, is it can melt through, but it takes a lot longer, and
Yeah.
especially because that's also forged, so it's not raw anymore, so
Hmm.
it's forged into a weapon, so it's a lot stronger.
Yeah.
So it's made to take the blade like that.
Which was
But
another
Say
fun thing with
the
Mandalorian, getting to see the armorer and her making armor and stuff like that. That was
Yeah.
cool. And it makes sense for them to have a sect of creators who are like, no, my family knows how to work Beskar, and that is
Well,
a special thing.
That's a
also to
really
to
awesome
see
trope.
actual Beskar in a fight too,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
we've always been told that it can withstand lightsabers, but we don't ever get to see it in action.
Mm-hmm.
Because most time we saw it was in video games, and you can't really
Yeah.
express that, especially in the
They
older
still have to
games.
have a health bar in a video game. So yeah, it's not that
It's
the Beskar was that great; it's that they had to hit him 5 times regardless.
Yep.
so the idea was that Boba Fett always didn't have Beskar, so
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason why he was not so great comparatively with the whole legendary Beskar. It's because he had. I don't know if they still kept the idea of having Durasteel armor, but that was always the idea. The
I
reason for
believe.
the dent and the damage to his armor, because
Yeah.
otherwise he shouldn't have had the dent.
Right. But I know Durasteel is still what they said, like Dingar and a few of the others used. But yeah, and we now know, Mandalorian made that is Jango's armor. So that's another
Yeah,
thing though, is we need to see background for Django, because that's not canon either. There's an awesome comic run, Open Seasons, where it talks about Jaster Bareel and the Mandalorian Civil
yeah.
War, which that is canon, but that involves the Great Cataclysm. That actually is what made Mandalore a barren white desert. It was just all these Mandalorians nuking each other because they were all trying to kill each other. And
That
one
and the
clan.
Empire.
Yeah, and then the Empire didn't help either with the Night of a Thousand Tears,
glassing
which
the planet.
was that was awesome. The Terminator vibes from Night of a Thousand Tears. I was so cool. That was I
Such
was
a
so
good
down.
episode overall, though.
Yeah,
Like,
getting to
Bryce
finally hear
did
someone
amazing.
talk when the armor was like, no, I remember.
Also, she's got to be a Maul fan.
Oh, I think she's a.
Dude,
I think she
the
was
spikes
a
on her helmet.
Malorian.
She's a Malorian. She's
Yeah.
got to be. And the way she talked about it with a bow and stuff, she's got to be. She had hatred
Well, honestly,
for that family.
nah. Bo-Katan Kryze is a punk anyway.
I know,
She
but-
she has never won the Darksaber.
Been given it twice.
But in the new series, it shows that she does have a lot of pull with some of the clan that's
Right.
still around. So he does need to win her side, but
Because she's
it's gonna be difficult
Because
because
family.
she thinks she's the princess, so she
Yeah.
wants to rule, but
Nah.
she's never earned the right to rule. That's the problem.
Season 3, Din versus Bo. Let's go.
And then Sabine just shows up.
I will say they did a really good job at portraying her in Mandalorian.
Yes, and it was
Agree.
awesome that they got to use Katie Sackhoff through the whole thing. That makes
Love
it
her.
getting to hear the same voice and see the character. That was awesome. Her counterparts, was it like Axel Wolf or something? Wolf is the dude, and then Koska Reeves. Like, I love just how they were no nonsense, get the job done. Like, they were very Mandalorian in that show. Whereas Din is, trying to be a dad. They showed up and they were like, "Nah, we're just pew pew. These Quail-esh people are just gonna get put down. I don't care. I killed your brother. I'll kill you too." That was
Yeah,
really good to see.
it was a great way to show how much different he was
Yeah.
in his
Yeah.
beliefs than
And it was also
I'm
cool to see his beliefs shattered.
Yeah. Yeah.
immediately take helmet off.
Yeah.
What do you mean? How are you doing that?
What? You can remove it?
That was always so
Yeah.
much fun, yeah. Or the lines where they recruit Boba, and she's just like, "I've heard your voice 1,000 times." Because when you go back to the Clone Wars and you go through the Mandalorian siege arc, such a good way to end that show. Like, it's sad that it had to end at all, just because it was that it's such a good taste. But I mean, that's a good thing to stop on a good note. But yeah, the last season of Clone Wars was movie quality good. The mocap, the writing,
Just the
Darth
fight
Maul's-
with Maul and Ahsoka.
well, and that's one of the things. So, kind of thinking on Jedi versus Sith, a nice little side topic here. We're gonna get started on then. I'm a Sith guy. I love the Sith. I love the dark side. I love the lore of it. And Maul was such a fun character, especially in Rebels when you get to the Binary Sons episode, and like at the end, he's not redeeming himself. He dies a Sith, but he's just laying there like, please tell me someone's out there who can crush Palpatine.
Well, the fun thing is I mean, he's in also, if you remember, he's in Solo. So
Mhm.
I hope if we ever do see a season 2 of Obi-Wan,
Mm-hmm.
It would be awesome to have him show up.
Yeah,
If
because
not, we still need to see. We've been teased from Solo and
yeah.
never again.
And the comics did really good. Crimson Reign comics sold really well. People like the Crimson Reign crime syndicate, so they could very easily put Maul in charge again in the crime syndicate. And anytime he heard about Obi-Wan, he was obsessed.
No
So
way.
it'll just be like a Vader thing where he'll just show up just because he kind of smelled a rumor of Obi-Wan being alive.
So
I
imagine if
mean,
he's like hearing all this stuff going on, and he's like, "What, Kenobi?"
Yeah, he like listens to the Imperial, like, because he's a crime syndicate, so he has like an Imperial spy in there listening for him. Like, oh yeah, they just recently Vader found Kenobi, and he's like, what?
well, we go into going for our favorite Jedi and Sith.
Mm-hmm.
Maul. It's a hard one not to say he's a favorite because I don't know if I would say he's a favorite, but to think about the idea of his core idea of his character was to make an iconic Sith that
Mm-hmm.
didn't wear a mask.
Right.
And that design of that character, just his how he looks, was so iconic and so Sith. I mean,
Yeah.
he kind of engrosses the idea of what a Sith should be like,
Right.
with the eyes, the everything, just
Aggressive.
the
The
pure. You could tell by his teeth, it's everything.
yeah.
He's been just pure dark side, and then of course the iconic lightsaber.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, the hilt itself is so plain, but I mean, I still remember as a kid when I see the other side of that saber light
Yeah.
up. It was the coolest thing as a child to ever see.
And it's still a goosebumps feel. Like you're just like, oh yeah, the Phantom Menace kicks in, the Duel of Fate song really starts up, and that was there's of course like how do you not get hardcore into Star Wars when the Duel of Fates is playing and there's this awesome fight going on.
Yeah.
And then he spawns, of course, the Dathomirian Zabraks and Dathomirian lore from Clone Wars and stuff, which is all awesome because I love the Dathomirian witches.
Well, he goes through that, and he goes through this madness of defeat,
Yeah.
and then he spawns back up, starting a cult, starting his own Mandalorian cult,
Mm-hmm.
if you remember,
Yeah.
and then running a gang, because that's the whole deal with Solo is he's running a gang,
And then
and
there's yeah,
so
we have the Sons of Dathomir comics where he doesn't lose all of his Mandalorians. He takes the ones who are
yeah.
loyal to him and takes them to Crimson Dawn.
I mean,
yeah.
if we believe that he's fully dead, then that was we could never see him in the Mandalorians, but it'd be cool to see him in the with his horned helmets and
Yeah.
some Mandalorian. That'd be cool, but
I'd be so down for that.
it'd be such a stretch to bring him back for that far in the future.
Right, but
And
I
Like
liked his
having
character.
Mandalorians like bring his essence and like
Yeah.
having him.
I guess that
still-
that'd be a good way to bring like the tease them all. Just have like on one of the last episodes, there's just a red and black painted Mandalorian who's like, wait a minute.
'cause they still love or
But
whatever.
I would love to see them go from the kind of the gang part
Mhm.
that he got into with Solo at the end of Solo. That was
Yeah.
like the whole
Oh.
deal. We never get to see anything from that.
And the outfit was dope. I loved the black robes with the gold Crimson Dawn necklace. And his saber's different by this point. He has like the half of the
Yeah.
Inquisitor saber, half his saber.
It was almost a staff at one point.
Yeah,
too, wasn't it?
especially when he was super crazy.
Yeah, because he had to have it to walk around with.
Yeah. But yeah, Sith are awesome. But then it's hard also because then there's like Maul was great because no matter what, through all of his arcs, he was a Sith. Like you said, he was the embodiment of a true Sith without the mask, not trying to hide it. Like Maul would have flourished in the old Sith Order far more than the Rule of Two. Because Palpatine used every single one of his apprentices. He didn't actually teach all of his powers to them. He held a lot back so that because he wanted immortality. He didn't actually want an apprentice to succeed him. So
No.
Maul would have
Because
done.
he knows what happens.
Yeah.
Because he did it himself.
Yeah,
so.
he just killed. He's like, oh, you're drunk, cool, death. But yeah, Maul would have survived and done so much better as a old Republic Sith or like Brotherhood of Darkness kind of Sith, where he could have just been let loose on the galaxy and been a Sith Lord doing his own fun.
I don't know if he'd do well within the Sith Order because he's kind of a wild card.
Yeah.
I guess yeah, he'd make a great assassin, and eventually some Darth and the Dark Council would have just like take care of him. He's too much.
But he was made for Palpatine, right? Was it by
Yes.
the witches?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the idea. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
He's one of the
specifically
few
made.
that, yeah, he's one of the few that Mother Talzin is actually his mother.
Yeah. So.
So he had a lot of power, and that's why, like, when we see with Savage Opress, she did the same thing with Maul. She literally imbues them with the Dathomirian Witch, like, dark magic to make them stronger and better. Dooku, of course, great Sith, but never actually a Sith, almost.
Yeah, I was just saying,
He
I wouldn't
walks that
say a
line
good.
of, like, gray.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's a good Sith. He's probably a terrible Sith, to be honest with you.
Terrible Sith, terrible Jedi, really good Force user.
He cared about his people, and that was the thing that really drove him, was his planet and protecting his people, because the Empire didn't do it.
But sadly, the dark side is corruptive, so he starts with this, you know, the path to hell is paved in gold bricks. So he starts like, I must help Sereno, my people need me, and then slowly through using the dark side and Palpatine being the manipulative bastard that he is, he just keeps falling and falling. Like, really, the only time we see him have Sith eyes is in the Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
Other than that, he never once had Sith eyes in any of the movies.
Well, you hardly ever see him use any dark side powers as well.
Yeah, unless he's fighting Yoda. Which you kind of gotta go all out. If you don't go all out fighting Yoda, you lose.
You're done.
Yeah, you're done. And it's not exactly to take away from Palpatine, but again, I just don't think Palpatine would have done that great if it wasn't for the rule of two.
Oh, no.
Because, like, he only defeated his master because he was drunk. Like, very, very drunk. It's the only way he killed Plagueis, which sadly isn't a canon book, but it's the most canon we have for that story. Because we all, like, it is canon that Plagueis was alive during the Phantom Menace.
Really?
Yeah, Higdo Damas is alive during the Phantom Menace. So it's sometime between episode 1 and 2 that he kills his master.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
For me, though, like, Jedi, kinda, but I'm more of a gray Jedi person.
That term.
Okay. Wayseeker.
There we go, Wayseekers. Those who follow the Force.
Yes.
Orla Jurini, Qui-Gon Jinn.
I would say Ahsoka.
Well, and that's
Ahsoka.
the whole original idea of how the Force should be followed, anyways.
Yes,
and that's
exactly. That's the Jedi.
And it can bring in balance of the Force. I mean, we could easily see it was so unbalanced, and not the way the Jedi realized that was unbalanced.
See, and that's all. So many people want to say that because yes, George Lucas is quoted saying the dark side is like a corruption that you have to leave your body to get back into balance. But then the way it's been written later, the way it seems to be going, it seems more like it's actually like a balance of destruction to create life. Life creates, you know, like a star is born through an explosion and through a big bang.
We have those pure Force creatures. I can't remember what they're called.
Oh,
and
the Wills?
They have I'm trying to think what they're called, but they specifically, because that was, well, they did it in the Rebels as well. They had the other creatures. I don't remember that that Kanan had to get help from, but they wouldn't help him because
we have the Lost
they don't
Wolves.
They don't pick a side.
Yeah. There's the Loth Wolves, and then like the there's Ashla and Bogan. What is his name?
It was like the giant
Bindu.
Yeah.
The Bindu, which the Bindu monks are also another sect of like balance. Balance.
They didn't believe in a light side or a dark side. They just believed in the Force. So that was one of the things that always kind of been helped and forced it, because that was like they don't pick just the light side. That there isn't a light side. It's just the Force. So anything you get from the Force is the Force.
And that's the reason why I loved, when it comes to Jedi, Qui-Gon's my all-time favorite, period. Because Qui-Gon understood, like, you can't only judge things based off of, oh, the Republic is doing this, or, oh, the Separatists are doing this. No, what does the Force want to happen? Which, sadly, was him dying.
But that's why I like them better. I like Wayseekers better.
Or maybe not. I mean, I always had the headcanon that, like, it's weird, though, because I think, Qui-Gon and Anakin trained together, Anakin wouldn't have fallen to the dark side the way he did, and then it probably would have started a huge Jedi Civil War again, where these true Force believers are trying to get rid of these zealots.
If we go off the idea that it was foretold that he would bring balance to the Force, the way it says, he had to eventually, it was destined for him to kill or to balance the sides. So
Yeah, and the best way for it to have worked out was, of course, takes care of all the Jedi. So there's that side getting its brought down to square one, and then you go over to the Sith, and he joins Palpatine, and then eventually yucks him over the edge, and there we go, where we finally get the balance of the Sith, and they all balance out. But yeah, so of course a lot of people would always say, Anakin is the best Jedi because he brought balance to the Force, and yeah, in a sense, he did a lot that really helped because you have to have that balance. But it's weird because like I
well,
recently
well,
on my main
so
channel.
if we go for the essence of what a Jedi is,
Yeah.
he's kind of a garbage Jedi.
Yeah, right. He does not have any sacrifice. Like he's like, no, it's about me. What do I get out of this? But that's again, I that's why Mace Windu was like, and Yoda even like, nah, he's too old. He's got way too many attachments. He can't be a Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have two iconic actors as Jedi that are right by him.
Yeah.
And I think Anakin not getting found is part of the reason everything kind of
Yeah.
Because if they would have had what do they call them, like seekers, to go out and find the force sensitive.
Seekers, yeah, they are the ones that they go out and
So,
literally find force sensitive children.
If one would have gone out and actually gone to the Outer Rim or somewhere, or where onto Tatooine, they would have found him.
Yeah.
And because I'm sure they would have been like, oh yeah, no, he's a slave, cool, we'll buy him, but done.
Well, that's one of the cool things with this most recent Old Republic MMO trailer that just dropped is it actually talks about like, oh no, the Jedi could have taken many more children. They just chose not to. They chose the best children to take. They really it's like the AAA school that goes around to all the other schools and like gets the best football players to make the ultimate high school football team. That's the Jedi.
Now,
Well, they kind of deal with it in the Clone Wars a little bit
Mhm.
because the episode where what's his name, the mercenary, Cad Bane,
Cad Bane? Okay.
he steals the holocron with all the force sensitive location,
Mhm.
so they know they're there.
Yep.
They're just not picking all of them. So
Right.
they have an idea that a lot of them exist. They just are I guess being picky of which ones they do take.
Yeah, but that's why with the Fallen Order game, that's why Cal Kestis is like, nope. And at the end of the game, spoilers, sorry, it just destroys this holocron that has the location of almost every force-sensitive child born within a certain time span. But he's like, nah, the dark side, the Empire cannot get their hands on this because of what they're doing to children that are sensitive in the Force, which we don't even really know. They don't all become Inquisitors, but like we see in Kenobi and that game, they're like in this weird stasis field being just held.
Are they dead, or are they like?
Well, and I'm sure it all goes back to Palpatine trying to keep himself alive and
Yeah.
cloning and manipulating midi-chlorians.
They called it a tomb, but I thought because in the show he said it was a tomb, but
Mhm.
I thought it was a prison. To me, it looked
Right.
like a prison.
Because they look like they're suspended in a moment.
Yeah, because why even keep the bodies intact if it's
Yeah.
a tomb? It's like what's the point?
And then that's one of the other things too is so least favorite movie, Last Jedi. What they
I
did
think you'll have a lot of people on supporting
what
you
they
on that
did to
one.
Luke is dumb, and I don't like it. The bigger problem to me is from the Last Jedi on, because all that the Rise of Skywalker is doing is fixing the Last Jedi, kinda.
And fan servicing.
And fan
It's a
servicing. Yes.
yeah, it's a
The
big
issue
fan
is
service.
though, the best parts of the sequels are in the comics and the books that they don't even remotely talk about because they had more time to think about it because they rushed the sequels. Okay, this year sequel, this year the number 8, this year number 9, instead of just write the damn thing and make it good.
No, we gotta put it out. We gotta get money.
Right, Disney
So
will put it out.
the thing, like I mentioned you before, when we were children and even growing up, there wasn't a lot of Star Wars to come around for a
Yeah.
while. So if for episode 1, we only had the old movies, old comics, and some of the books, and some because there's so many. They went when they had Marvel involved. They had so many different writers that a lot of the comics went off the deep end.
Yeah.
So some of the culling of the canon was good
Yeah.
because of that. But we didn't have these shows and movies coming out or games as much as we do now. And so to hear people complain about, a couple characters, I'm like, you don't even most of you complaining weren't even a fan when it was such a dry season. And
Right.
we had to make our own stuff up
Yep.
or dig deep if we could. And now to have these live action shows come out is such a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to pick a movie that is my least favorite is hard for me to say because just to get the movies in general is so awesome.
Right.
But
There's not
yeah,
been a single thing that's come out where I don't like parts of it. Even in The Rise of Skywalker, the scene where Rey's holding back the shuttle that has Chewbacca on it, and then she accidentally force lightnings it and blows it up. That was cool. Now, of course, that's
the
when everyone
Last
was like,
Jedi though
yeah.
is
Well, I mean, when you in two movies, when you have the
it's
first
so
one where
hard.
when the
It's
opening
so
scene
bad.
is Luke going, that thing's stupid. I don't care about that lightsaber, even though it was my father's, and it's the whole reason I became a Jedi in the first place. And then the very
that
next
was
movie,
dumb.
Rey throws the lightsaber, Force goes, Luke catches it and goes, hey, you gotta treat this with more respect. What?
You could easily tell we had a different director.
Yes.
They wanted, but in the movie itself, if you stripped Star Wars out of it,
Mm-hmm.
the movie's just a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's badly written. They just wanted. I haven't really dug deep into the movie to figure out why they, because I didn't like the movie.
Yeah.
It just I've only seen it once, and I really don't plan on seeing it much again.
I know another gripe is always the fact that I'm like, Finn should have been a Jedi. Everyone was rooting for Finn.
What they did to Finn was horrible.
Yeah.
Finn was such a good character
Yes.
to be put in, and they just got rid of him. They neutered Poe,
Yeah.
and they killed off a great villain they were building up, which is Snoke.
Yeah. Because, and
They-
like, it wasn't the fact that.
He was so interesting and so cool that they just kind of tease like he's
Yeah.
he's kind of pulling the strings. He's above. He makes Kylo scared. So
They made him a clone, and like a really bad clone.
No, he is not
Well,
actually a clone of
no,
Palpatine.
he didn't make him a clone. He
He
just
is parts
basically.
of Palpatine that Palpatine made pretty much. Snoke is the first successful Force user who was just created.
That's what I mean. Like he's still
But
like
they
a clone. Like he.
No.
But they made him
Strand cast.
so weak.
Yes.
Strand
They,
cast
they
is
killed him
different.
off so
Yeah.
so easily. His lightsaber gets thrown into him and he's dead.
I mean, he's sitting there and he's like, a Sith master doesn't know that Ben isn't thinking about killing Rey. He can't feel where his aggression is pointed.
Well, they made him so arrogant that he was blind to it. But I
Yeah.
mean, how crafty they made his character. He should have easily seen that coming. They made him so crafty. They made him a second Palpatine without making him a second Palpatine.
Yeah, and then they put all
But
these
they made
cool
him-
artifacts on him. Like he was wearing a ring from Vader's castle, and like made with this black crystalline stone on it that we didn't know what that was. Like they put all these things, and I'd be like, "What is that?" And they were like, "Doesn't matter."
Honestly, bringing back Palpatine involved, I think, was the worst decision ever.
But the way they did it was so bad because do you plan on reading the Shadow of the Sith book?
Probably not.
Well, then spoilers for that book real quick. Let me just say it puts a lot of weird things into perspective because it is canon. So you have Grandmaster Luke and Lando on this journey. He's trying to like get to Exegol, but so is like every Sith ghost imaginable. There's a dark side mask that is haunted by a Viceroy Panchard Sith Lord from like way far back, and he's trying to get to Exegol to get his body back because there's this Sith ritual and there's this weird nexus of the dark side on Exegol that can help bring people back to life for immortality. So it's like that's what Plagueis was after. That's then why Sidious was after it. Vader in the comics tries to go there, but when they get there, Palpatine is sitting underneath his throne. Is a literal mountain-sized kyber crystal that is being tortured and hurt, and that dark side energy is just being pushed through it, and it's creating this fountain of evil and darkness, which is an amazing idea, and it makes more sense. Oh, so that's how he was able to stay alive. That's so he was pretty much like had Palpatine possessed an item, and then through that item and being on Exegol, used the dyad in the Force and all this other stuff to come back. That could have been done way better. But it's like it relied on these books that were well thought out over months and months after the release of the last movie to even make any sense of the last movie.
Because they
Well,
had,
even then,
had to have something.
Yeah.
even then, bringing him back just felt like such a stretch. And it's like
Mhm.
we're tired of seeing Sidious. We want new stuff. You're
Yeah.
giving us new stuff. Why are you reusing old stuff? Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop that.
and
We can have new
pick it.
villains. Snoke was a
Right.
good new villain. He had such a
Yes.
mysterious. You could have done so many things you could have done with Snoke. But you did it. You brought back a villain that
It's like they
wasn't
just.
even.
I feel like JJ and them were just like writing out how this is kind of like a rough draft of how this was going to go, and they're like, "Well, how do we end it? Dark Empire. Just pull from Dark Empire. Not well. Just pull the main idea that Palpatine comes back somehow through clone-ish.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't the original story.
Right.
That's something that he did clone himself. So that wasn't something he did come up with new. It just was. It was just old singing.
Yeah.
We just move on to make new characters.
Yes.
It's something you're good at, and you did great characters. You just kind of neutered a lot of them.
And then made
Did it
other
with
ones more
Kylo.
important. Like, and it's not even that I didn't like Rosa as a character, but they really didn't do anything to make us need her or want her to be around. And she's all like, "Finn, I love you," and Finn's like, "I don't even know your name." Like, he gives her this look of like, "Who are you?"
They could have done something great with her. I mean, I said a lot of the only ones they really felt like they developed on was Rey.
Yeah.
And then, of course, bringing Leia in, they built her up a ton, and then eventually Luke back up a ton,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of forgotten whatever else they had.
Yeah.
Like I said, they started doing everyone dirty if you think about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
Besides,
they
well,
teased us with this
Rey.
amazing Leia and Luke training scene where we got to see Leia like give into the Force and like beat Luke in a saber duel. But then they don't explain why she decided to stay more of the general and stay away from the Force. They don't explain any of her journey. They're just like, yeah, and she's a Skywalker, so just understand that she's powerful. We're not even going to try and explain anything to you.
Do you
She's a
think
Skywalker, she's powerful.
they weren't able to do that because of...
No,
Right.
because they don't care about putting a younger face on an actress for Carrie Fisher anyway, so why would that have stopped them?
Isn't her image... like...
I don't think so. It was her daughter that
I don't
her
think so.
daughter was the body double in
'Cause they've done it before.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did it in
her daughter literally played
Rogue
the body
One?
double. Yes, Rogue One was that was a good one. Even with Tarkin, I liked what they did.
Well, I'm saying they superimposed her face
Yes.
on that one as well.
Yeah, they did.
And then
But then, yeah, in Last Jedi, it was just her daughter with a bit of new mapping. And I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
like what happened in The Mandalorian, they did the de-aging for Luke, and then the other guy from YouTube did it better. So they just hired him, like, hey, you can do it
Yeah.
better. Here's a job. So
Well-
the technology's becoming way more easy to have.
I like her being in the general role, which I've
Yeah.
told you. I've always liked, 'cause that was the original idea. She was a great diplomat, great
Mhm.
general. It's she's that great boss character where she's shows that because she was already kind of bossy in the Empire. She was already that general role, and it was a good role for her.
And
But then it's like
Kenobi.
they do that, and then they're like, oh yeah, because she's a Skywalker. She's got these powerful Force powers.
If you're a
So she can
Skywalker,
float-
you're a Mary Sue. All Skywalkers are Mary Sues. All of them, period. They all are just ridiculously powerful. But I love, actually, I think one of the things they did right again was with Kenobi, young Leia. And how, like, she's still feisty, but she's not, like, always rude. And, like, in Rebels, when they show, like, young woman, kind of late teens Leia. But I mean, because that's the first time we see Leia in A New Hope. She's just literally like, "Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper?" Like her
Sassy.
first line is just like,
Which is incorrect if you think about it, because I think the average height, because Luke was actually
yeah, he's not that
pretty
short.
tall.
Yeah. Or she just shoots the garbage dump out, and she's like, "Can we just do this?" She's like, "This is nothing. I get shot at and rescued from weird Imperial places constantly."
I just think making her a Jedi in the full sense, I think just really ruins her idea, because I still like that idea about her. I like her, like I said, being the the general, the boss. She's the level head. She's the one who runs things, runs the show. And you can't do that as a Jedi, especially when you're trying to worry about rebuilding the Order.
Right.
She's rebuilding the new, I guess resistance is what
Mhm.
it's gonna rebuilding that, and she's probably gonna be one of the main ones helping rebuild that. So she doesn't have time to help rebuild the order.
So you think she's
So I
gonna
just
be in you think she'll be in Andor?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
It's at
curious.
this point it's hard to say. I didn't see Obi-Wan go in the direction they did.
There might be a
So
peak of her,
Yeah.
but I don't think she will be.
But no, my problem with Jedi Leia too is it's just either be the general or be the Jedi, but don't give us this weird crap in between with no explanation. But that's
yeah, I just felt like it was a big cop out
it
that
was to be
she's
like, hey, look at this, it's really cool. She's
but
got a
it's like
lightsaber now, and we're gonna sell you that lightsaber.
well, you go through this
But you
whole
were
deal if
gonna
you're a
you got me that lightsaber.
I did get you that lightsaber. It's gorgeous.
if you go well, it's a good lightsaber. But if you go through the idea that Skywalkers are because he's the chosen one, so
Hmm.
they're always going to be powerful. You know, Anakin was the chosen one, so his kids got to be powerful. But how do you explain Rey?
Hmm.
You can't just say, "Well,
Oh, but she's a Palpatine,
Palpatine."
right? Yeah.
It doesn't work with every kid. It doesn't happen that way.
If a
You can't,
Force user has a baby, that baby is just as strong as the Force user.
By
Which
that
yeah, it's like what?
logic,
The midi chlorian thing is supposed to be random. Like it's almost like in Harry Potter, like two wizards got together and had a Muggle child.
then you would probably see a lot more in the war of children of the Sith just popping
Hmm.
out babies just to make
Oh, just to keep
dude.
numbers
press
up.
Sith soldiers because if you get a powerful Sith, he's gonna just make a bunch of children because they're
Yeah,
going to be just as powerful
and
apparently.
now he has his own army. So
But
boom, done. Yeah, the sequels, of course, had their rough spots, but you know there are some really resounding fun parts within them. Kylo Ren's character had his moments where he wasn't the best, but I think consecutively through the movies, Kylo Ren was my favorite.
I think they're trying to like there's a whole cycle. They like repeating the general idea of the first movie.
Yeah, a
And
lot.
so they kind of wanted to remake a new Anakin or a new
Hmm.
kind of Luke. So they wanted to make the whole, but they just kind of overdid it, and they just made him just kind of a really annoying character.
You're right.
And instead of making the new Darth Vader in this whole path,
Hmm.
they just I don't know. It's just this weird, annoying, whiny, and then of course it doesn't help that he kills Harrison Ford, so
Yeah.
Han Solo, which upsets everybody because
Yeah. I'll admit I like that scene. I just enjoyed though the like I don't know if I have the strength to do what I need to do. So and like again, that was where they really first started playing with lighting, where like the moonlight is hitting Ben in the face, so he has a blue face when he's like crying. He's like, I don't know what to do, Dad. Excuse me.
yeah, I
And
like the
then yeah,
actor. The guy's great. I don't
yeah,
have any problem with that. I just think the
I'm so
writing.
upset
I don't know
yes,
if
that
it's
was
the
what.
writing or the execution. The writing. I don't know. Something. I have a feeling it's the writing or I don't know. It was something. The execution.
yeah.
It made. He's the awesome design.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, Maul.
Yeah.
Um, not practical lightsaber, but cool lightsaber nonetheless. Um, but
Awesome when you
he's
think
just
about
neutered.
actually having a hand guard. That's nice.
Just not a useful handgun.
Yeah. And then I know to me the books and the comics are kind of what's shining right now for lore. It's really putting a lot more out there, and like almost all the authors you can really tell are people who grew up watching and loving Star Wars. Versus a lot of the times with these directors, they're just like, "Oh yeah, we got this famous director to help with this." And I'm like, but do they care about Star Wars?
No.
I need them to care about Star Wars, or of course there's gonna be things they put in that Star Wars fans are gonna be like, I don't agree with that, but okay, like
Or they get writers just because they're good writers.
Yeah.
But they've never actually done anything with Star Wars, so they
Yeah.
have no idea what they're doing. They don't have any idea about the story, about the worlds that they're coming into, and
Yeah.
they just make a bunch of random shit up.
yeah,
And they think that we have to keep using the same thing. We keep seeing the same time period. We keep seeing the same general
I wanna
story,
see, like,
same
100 years in the
characters.
future.
100 years in the future, 100 years in the
We're not getting
past.
any new stories because even in the movies we're seeing the same repetitive. We're seeing
Yeah,
the same kind of general. You can already say Poe is like Han Solo,
Yep.
or you can already put like it's the same story just with different characters.
Luke
And it's
literally just
but in the
becomes
future.
Luke becomes a worse
Ben,
Alec Guinness Ben Kenobi. Yeah.
yeah,
I think though one of the other big things is they didn't even give us like I know a lot of people when the sequels are coming out, as much as they were not enjoyed by a lot of Star Wars fans, Broomstick Kid. That little kid after the Canto Bite scene that like holds
oh
his
yeah,
hand out and grabs the broom with the force. Everyone was like, "Okay, yes, that's what we want. Go that way. Let's if Rey's going to be the one who starts a new Jedi Order, that's fine. Do that." We just need it to like actually move that way. We need it to move
yeah.
somewhere.
I would like to see way back at the beginning.
Oh yeah,
I would like to see more of that lore.
Tython and the
Yes.
Tho Yor and all that crazy stuff.
The
Well, I said I would
The
either
Cotton Infinite Empire would be
either
fine, but
just something different, either early clone. That if you want to keep it the same, I would rather honestly move away from all of it.
yeah,
I'd want to either in the future or in the past.
yeah,
I want to see new stories, new characters. I'm tired of hearing. I mean, you can throw in a couple lore bits here and there, but
hmm
there's only so many times you can hear the same, the general stuff like that. It's just it gets
right.
old.
And again, yeah, the best thing with Old Republic, you have all these Sith to play with. They don't follow the rule of two. They have their own machinations, their own plans and plots and schemes. You have all these Jedi that are fighting, or go to like talk about all these other cool Force cults that are out there.
There's
Keldor
so
have the Barando monks that are just like a bunch of sages. The Telortai, they are all Force sensitive, but they don't like to use the Force because it's so sacred to them. So there's so many cool things to touch out there, and like Mandalorian really showed us, you don't have to have Jedi's in it.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
yes, it was a great cameo to see Luke Skywalker, punk a bunch of
Ahsoka.
Dark Troopers and Ahsoka, but you don't need it. No one's watching The Mandalorian only for that.
And we don't have to keep seeing stormtroopers. You can make
Right.
something new.
Exactly.
You
So,
can delve into new things. It's okay.
right. Alrighty. Well, looks like it's about that time. Then we'll start wrapping up. We got that was a good little section there to talk about what we want to see for the future of Star Wars. So that'll really help things. Sorry, we got a hard stops so we can get the wee one to bed and fed. So I'll speak for Jess when I say that. Thank you all, those of you who stick out the whole watch. Check us out on. We will attempt to drop stuff as much as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let us know.
We plan on
Yeah.
having guests.
Yes.
So yeah, if there's anything you want us to talk about, feel free to comment.
Exactly. We're gonna have people who are like one of my favorites. We're gonna do in the future is a hardcore Star Trek fan who has not seen almost any Star Wars, and just have them watch a little bit and then come at us with notes.
Yeah, I would love to see the harp on that real quick without going too much of a
Yeah.
tangent. Like with Jess, she got in it late. I hate gatekeeping things, so
Yeah.
I love to see an idea from a new fan's perspective to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
What are their ideas? What are their takes? So that's I think to me that would be awesome to hear.
That's the future of Star Wars is new people coming into it because you got to get new blood in the body. The water becomes stagnant if it sits too long. So again, and then I will say thank you as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a long ride. Just again, like Mike said, comment down below with any comment or question, clarification, anything like that. We are happy to conversate with anyone through any way we can. So thank you very much for joining. Again, this is the House of Holocrons. It will be going up on Spotify, through Anchor, on iTunes, all that stuff, and then also on YouTube as well. We will probably eventually get into live streaming some of these, especially with guests and stuff like that.
Yes.
But a lot of us just tirading, which is going to be a lot of this, because me and Mike have multiple opinions on the same subjects. We will just keep going at it and doing what we can. So yes, again, thank you all so much. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and we look forward to seeing you all and talking some Star Wars next time.